Hey, good evening. It's John again playing Immaculate Grid. I'm rocking a Seattle Pilots sweatshirt. I've owned this thing for a while since I lived in Seattle, probably about 5 years now. But I've always had I lived in Seattle for a few years, and I am a Brewers fan. Grew up in Milwaukee, so I've always had sort of an attachment to the one-year wonders, the Seattle Pilots, and I've read Ball Four by Jim Bowden. Um, Anyway, that's just a fun little this is the first time I think I'm wearing it in one of these videos because I don't wear sweatshirts in Florida because it's warm. Anyway, let's play Immaculate Grid. Let's get into it. I think I did well yesterday, but who knows? I think I had like a 12 or something like that. It's a pretty good score. So we're sharing what I think was the time version. I've been a little bit slower operating a laptop. You know how that goes. I'm gonna hit refresh, hit go, and away we go. All right, 2000 career hits. Rob me out. Will work. Let's see. Al Simmons will definitely work there. Ooh, maybe I should have held on to that one. Harold Baines had like 2,800 career hits. Second baseman for the Brewers. Let's go with, spell his name right. Jim Gantner. Oh, let's go Nellie Fox. And for the Orioles, Roberto Alomar. Also works for the White Sox. And 100 runs in a season. Well, I'm pretty sure Molitor will work for that one. Get Molitor, Gantner, and Yount all across. They were teammates for 15 years. Um, let's see, 100 runs. Let's go with Albert Bell, 1998. He has to have done it. And then over here, feel pretty confident about Brady Anderson. Minute 10, ready to score 103. It's pretty good for Tom Brown. Let's see here. Yeah, I went with some pretty obvious ones across the top there. Um, Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, and Jim Gantner, I believe they at least had at a time the most hits ever by a trio on one team together. Yount, and this is basically 78 to 92. So about 15 years, the three of them played together. Obviously, Ganner, not the level that Yount and Molitor were at, but still like a reliable second baseman, played over there all the time. Um, and so Molitor had over 2,000 hits with the Brewers, probably 23 or 400 hits. Yount was during that period, probably in the 2000s, he ends up with about 3,100 for his career. So the trio, at least at a time, I don't know if that was since surpassed by like maybe Jeter, Bernie Williams, and Jorge Posada or some other combination, but for a time that was true. Probably not that combo though. Let's see. Nothing else too crazy. Fox clearly has a dip in. It's pretty gnarly. Um, Probably went a little bit too low on the on Al Simmons. I could have saved him. Ah well. All right. Well, let's stop share and let's see what I'm inspired to go do on the Brewers here. So stop share, reshare. Um, that's probably this screen here. Just need to get rid of that one. That was from yesterday. And let's hit refresh and let's see what we can do. And how obscure can we get with 2,000 hits for the Brewers? Um, so Dave Parker is a name that comes to mind. BJ Surhoff, I believe, exceeds 2,000 hits. Henry Aaron would work. I'm not sure if Jim Wynn works. Because he barely played for the Brewers. I'm not sure if he gets to 2,000. Um, Julio Franco played for the Brewers. He's up over 2,000 hits. I think that might take the lead for me. Let's go Julio Franco. Point 0.3, pretty good. Played about half of the 1997 season with the Brewers. All right, let's see. What kind of obscure second baseman can I name throughout Brewers history? Eric Young. Not an obscure player, but an obscure Brewer. Um, Fernando Vina, I'm not going to go with him. He was second baseman for a long time. Loretta played over at second quite a bit. Keith Ginter. That's my leader right now. Um, Pretty sure Listash, he came up as a shortstop, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him work. Here's a fun one. Um, I saw a video from Jaguar Gator 9. Or I think he calls himself JG7 when he is talking about baseball. Um, anyway, he had a great video about Don Money being the all-star starter at second base, having never played a game at second base in his career. But I guess he was listed there in the all-star ballot and was named the starting second baseman for the Brewers in like the 77 all-star game or something like that. But I think the answer is that that would not work because he was not a second baseman anytime except the All-Star game. So I don't think that's going to work. Be interesting if it did, though. Keith Ginter's in the lead for me. Ricky Weeks is not going to be obscure. Bill Hall certainly played a lot of second base. Um, Jerry Hairston Jr., Ray Durham played second base for the Brewers. I think a lot of people play him for the White Sox. Um, that was in the '08 season. Durham came over in the '08 season. I think Weeks was struggling that year. Um, who else? And then you get into like Travis Shaw and Mike Moustakas, who were both third basemen, played over at second base in the 2018 to 19 time frame. Um, who else would be no one Owen Miller would work and Scooter Gennett would work. Miller actually mostly played first, but I'm pretty sure he played over at second a little bit. Bryce Terang was our most popular guy this season. But I think for this, after talking through a number of options, ironically, it takes me longer with the team I know the best because I'm like, who of these many, many, many people that I know would be the best option? I'm going to go Keith Ginter, and he goes point one. I believe that Scott Pasednik, who did not win, he finished second to Dontrelle Willis for the 2003 Rookie of the Year. Um, I believe he had exactly 100 runs scored that year. I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, he hit the arbitrary milestone. Surely he will be Rookie of the Year. But he wasn't. Dontrelle Willis was. And Dontrelle Willis had legitimately excellent seasons, so no hate. Oh, wow, 2%. That's a lot higher than I thought. But 100 runs is a weird one. 100 RBI, I'm a lot better at because they would show that on the the player's scroll, but they don't usually show runs scored. So I could say Molitor with a lot of confidence. Molitor scored actually 136 runs in 1982. And I remember because I had a commemorative card from that. It was probably 10 years later that the card came out. 30 years later, the Brewers fandom still celebrates the 1982 World Series loss as the pinnacle of our franchise. But in any event, it talked about how Molitor's 136 runs scored were the most in the American League in like 40 years or something like that. Um, which was interesting to me because like I think I was at the time I was looking at the card, I was consciously aware of players that were had scored more runs than that, like in recent memory. Like Jeff Bagwell, I think, scored over 150 runs one year. Anyway, just fun fact. Let's see here. So I went with Nellie Fox for second base. Eddie Collins. I've moved on to the White Sox, by the way. Um, Eddie Collins would work. Um, Ray Durham works. Um, Alexis Ramirez played shortstop and second base, I think, and would work. Um, I don't think Franco would have worked. I think he was a full-time DH by 1994. He was a second baseman throughout his career. Let's see. For 2000 hits, man, I should have stayed with could have hung tight with Mr. Simmons. Who are some other obscure people who've popped through Chicago? Carlton Fisk is not obscure, but I think he would work. I think Ventura would probably work. I think he played long enough. Bain certainly works, but I used him already, and I don't think that was going to be obscure. Pretty sure Sosa works for both teams. I don't know if he got to 2000 hits. Probably did, actually. He didn't walk a whole lot. Um, Pretty sure Konerko and Maglio will work, but they're not obscure as White Sox. And that's the name of the game here, is to find people who are obscure with those teams. Um, and yeah, with the Orioles, Rogers Hornsby would work for second base and 2000 hits. Sisler will work for 2000 hits. Manish and Goslin will both work for 2000 hits. They were traded for one another. One of those played for the White Sox, but I don't remember which. Aparicio plays for both teams, and I'm pretty sure just played long enough to get to 2000 hits. Vizquel played for the White Sox ever so briefly. That's kind of the kind of player I'm going for, is an Omar Vizquel type who isn't known for playing for that team. And Omar Vizquel is certainly not known for playing for the White Sox. So maybe I sneak him in here. I go sub one. Probably could have done better though. And for the Orioles, I'm pretty sure I'm BJ Surhoff, but not, yeah, I'm not that sure. Um, Eric Davis would be an interesting option, but he had a lot of injuries, so that might make that one a little tougher. Um, Tim Raines would work. Tim Raines barely played for the Orioles. Oops. Let's try that one. How do you do, Tim Raines? Point two. All right. And now second baseman for these teams that are obscure. Certainly Gritch is not obscure. Hornsby's a little bit obscure for the St. Louis Browns. Um, I'm not really thinking of a whole lot of um, Browns players who played second base. Um, Eddie Collins is certainly not obscure overall, but I mean he's played a long time ago at least. Um, right. Who's in? You know what? Let's go with what do you think of Delino DeShields? He splits the gap between Roberto Alomar and Brian Roberts pretty well. Go sub one. All right. I'm trying to think. Who was the White Sox second baseman when they won the World Series? I'm not even picturing who that would have been. Alexis Ramirez doesn't come along until later. Ray Durham was the guy through into the '02 season before he was traded. Um, I'm trying to bridge that particular gap. Jose Valentin played shortstop and maybe a little third base, but I don't remember him ever over at second. Um, and like the 70s and the 80s are just kind of a black hole for me as far as players to the White Sox. I'm not thinking of a whole bunch. Um, Millie Fox played in the 50s into the 60s. Eddie Collins played in the 19 teens. Um, I think Ramirez is going to be too obvious, and I can't think of who was before Ray Durham. I'm actually like struggling to come up with a White Sox second baseman in between Nellie Fox in the 60s and Ray Durham in the mid 90s. Oh, Joey Cora would work. Joey Cora is the bridges the gap into the 80s, but not that far. Um, and I'm just trying to think of utility infielders. All right, let's try Eddie Collins. Let's see how many people remember that name. Way too many. It's all right. Gotta believe Carl Reynolds scored 100 runs in that one really good year, so I'm gonna go with him. There we go. That's an actual good number. And for 100 runs scored with the Orioles, maybe I used BJ Surhoff there for that really good 1999 season. Um, I could also consider, yeah, I don't know about like maybe Brooks Robinson or, I mean, Frank Robinson definitely. Brooks Robinson did win an MVP, had one really good offensive season, but pretty average player overall as far as the bat goes. He's not the best defensive third baseman of all time. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame, but he did have one really good year with the bat. Um, and the question is, it was 64, I think, when he was the MVP, which was before the Orioles really started winning. It was a couple years before the Orioles really started winning. So, um, let's let's throw a guess out. Or I could go George Sisler. That seems like a safe pick. See how Sisler does. 1%. Okay, so I still get a rarity score of 7. It's pretty good. I probably could have done a lot better on these. We look at the summary here. I just closed it, but there were 38 options. I don't know. That's decent, but not the best. And I obviously could have done better on these, but well, someone could have done better. I don't know that I could have done better. I was racking my brain on those. All right. Well, thanks a lot for playing, and you all have a great rest of your weekend. Peace.